Hello there. It is Wednesday, and as promised, I said I would be back 3 days after I made the brown butter infused or washed bourbon. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to make a brown butter old fashioned with that bourbon that's been infused. But actually, I learned something in the last 24 hours that some of the super fancy hotels in Paris have been inviting influencers to stay there because they don't have enough people in them. They don't have a lot of tourists, so they've invited people to go stay there for free and get room service and have breakfast on the terrace of their balcony in their room. So I'm not going to be here anymore. I'm going to take off. I'm going to go to one of those hotels, and I will see you later. Bye-bye. Just kidding. Nobody asked me to. But if anybody's listening, I promise if I get invited to one, I will make a cocktail and I will do my best to not make people feel bad because I'm in the super luxury hotel. But I'm not there now. I am, I am in my apartment and I'm in my kitchen. And so today's cocktail is an old fashioned, and it's an older cocktail. I believe it's pre-prohibition, and over the years it's evolved. It's a pretty simple cocktail. There's just 3 ingredients in it. It's got whiskey, it's got bitters, and it's got sugar. Not a lot of sugar. It's definitely not a sweet cocktail. It's very whiskey forward. Over the years it's evolved. It's gone through different changes. Sometimes you see them in an old fashioned, it's got all this fruit, and it's got maraschino cherries and oranges and pineapple. It looks like a fruit salad in a glass, but it's actually a very simple cocktail. One thing that's important for the cocktail is the glass. There's actually, you see things called old fashioned glasses. I don't really have an official old fashioned glass. Generally it's a squat tumbler. And I have a lot of tumblers like this, but if you can see, maybe against my shirt, it's all cloudy because we have terrible calcium problems in Paris with the water. That's plaster of Paris, and it's on our glasses. So it's very hard to get off. It's actually impossible, even though people have sent me suggestions over the years. None of them work. Once they get this film on them, you can't get it off. And I've tried everything. So even the dishwasher repair guy came and he gave me all these tips. He goes, don't use those tablets with all the stuff in them. Just use rinse agent, salt, and detergent without just the plain tablets. One of my readers once said, well, I'm a glass expert and never put salt in the dishwasher because it scratches the glasses. So I'm not sure how all those places in Paris get their glasses clean, like fancy restaurants. But when I stay in that 3-star hotel, I'm gonna sneak down in the middle of the night in my bathrobe and see how they wash the glasses. So I bet you've never heard anybody say that before. Anyway, so I do have this fancy glass that I bought. It's a Baccarat glass. I had seen, and everything's backwards because this is in selfie mode. Every so often, even though I say that, people write and they go, you should switch the mode. It's like, it doesn't switch. I've tried, believe me. It does on Facebook, but not on Instagram. Anyway, this is a Baccarat glass. Oh, let me say hello. People are talking about Keanu Reeves. Hello, Keanu Reeves. Oh, he's not here. One of my friends was a director, and she made a movie with him. And she goes, he was so nice. He hung out with my daughter the whole time. I was like, will he hang out with me? So I haven't asked. Anyway, Miele requires salt in their dishwashers. Well, they sell this really coarse salt in Europe, or at least in France, for your dishwasher. And I'm trying it. The proof is in the glass. So as you can see, the ring around the glass. Anyway, Baccarat. Baccarat's a French brand, and when I was working on my book, Drinking French, I was getting a lot of glasses because I wanted to see all the different glasses. And also I was getting glasses that we were going to use for the photography. Baccarat to me was always something like grandma had, or it sounded like old, like Delft china or something. And if you If you have Delft china and you like it, it's not an insult, it's a compliment because you have great taste. Anyway, Baccarat. But I saw these really cool 70s glasses in a cocktail book from the 70s or 60s. And I couldn't, it said Baccarat, but it didn't say anything about them. I couldn't find it. So I went to the Baccarat store in Paris. And normally you go to those really fancy upscale stores in like the Rue Saint-Honoré, and you're kind of nervous because the people are very well dressed and so forth. It's very quiet. There's people shopping and they have expensive handbags and so forth. But I went in there and I was looking at the glassware and I was holding it. I was like, wow, this stuff is really solid. I mean, like a tumbler weighed a lot. It's heavy crystal and wonderful. I mean, just felt good in your hand. And a lot of the designs weren't like these fancy overwrought things. They were very classy and so forth. But what I wanted to get to the point was that France has a reputation for less than stellar customer service. And if you don't believe me, when I started going to French classes 20 years ago, the teacher would went around the room the first day, and he said, what do you miss most about your home country? And most Americans said, customer service. And he goes, everybody says that in all my classes. That's changed over the years. Some things still can be a challenge. However, you can get good service. You just have to get Roman on it. Anyway, I went into the Baccarat store and the woman was super nice, and she looked at the pattern and she researched it, and she goes, no, we don't carry that, it's old, it's out of stock. And she goes, I'll be right back. And then she said, I just called a local dealer and he specializes in Baccarat and he doesn't have it either, doesn't know where to get it, but here's a couple other phone numbers. And that was so nice. I was like, wow. It was just, I wasn't going to buy anything. I wasn't, obviously well-heeled. So I thought that was really lovely. And another thing, customer service thing on a sort of a different point, my tripod has been leaning, and rather than leaving a bad review of the company online, I actually wrote to the company. And I said, hi, my tripod's leaning. And they said, because it's France, they said, well, send us a picture of it, and we're going to need a blood sample and a retina scan and your mother's maiden name and your birth certificate. Okay, they just needed a picture of it. And I sent them a picture, and they actually sent me a voucher for another one. So, which was very nice. So in this time of COVID, people are leaving like bad reviews for restaurants or delivery services. Think before you do that, because a lot of small businesses are hurting and people really do want to help you. They want it. In the old days, when you had a restaurant, somebody sent you a letter saying they had a bad experience. The restaurant could write you back and say, we're very sorry, we'd like to invite you back, or we'll refund your money or whatever. So think about doing that. The other thing is, I was doing Pilates on YouTube and using the classes, and you always see these ads at the beginning. That's how people make money. And I thought, well, I'm going to let the ad run because I want the people to make money. That's how they're providing this free service. So let the ads run. If there's favorite things you like to watch, go make some microwave popcorn or something while you're letting them run. Anyway, so I started getting more interested in Baccarat glasses, and I found one at a flea market that was in the box. Baccarat's never cheap. There's a reason for it. It's very well made. I'm not here to promote Baccarat, but if they want to put me up in a nice hotel and let me drink champagne out of Baccarat flutes, I'm happy to do so. But I bought this glass, and it's very interesting. This year is a bad review, Foxy Tomato. Yes, it is. I'm trying to make it better here. But I bought this glass. I liked it. It's sort of an old-fashioned glass. I don't know what you would call it officially. But when I went to use it for the book, when I brought the glassware out for the photos, both the food stylist and the photographer were like, no, that's not going to work. And I was like, but I paid a lot of money and I bargained for it at the flea market, and it comes in this fancy box and it's Baccarat. And they were like, David. And so I said, okay. So, anyway, I'm going to use it today because I bought it and it was about $50 at the flea market, but it's very nice. It's a really heavy glass and it makes me feel good to hold it. So it's okay. This is also the time to make ourselves happy. If a glass makes you happy, more power to you. So I'm going to get my little mini table because I want you to see what I'm doing. So the other day I made brown butter bourbon, and I browned butter. It's on the Instagram Live. I heated it up, and then I poured it into bourbon and let it sit for 3 days. A couple people said to me, "Oh, it's very dangerous to make, or it might be dangerous to do brown butter." And I looked it up. I was like, "Really? Butter's actually quite stable. Even the FDA or the USDA or FDA in the U.S., which is usually very, very." They always err on the side of caution because they don't want to get in trouble. They said like butter will keep at room temperature for a couple of days. I think they said fine, as long as it's not super hot. Hello in Los Angeles. I was just talking about LA today because half my family lives there, and if any of them are watching, hello. I miss you. I miss traveling. But if I stayed at a fancy hotel, I could feel like I was traveling, and I'll bring my Baccarat glass and. Anyway, so there are problems. People that do like fat washed bourbon, they put bacon in things and meat in it, and they let it sit at room temperature. It's not a good idea. I said in the recipe, which is on my blog, I say to refrigerate it for 3 days. So I took it out. In the recipe, I also say to put the jar in a thing of hot water to pull out the butter. I pulled out the jar about an hour ago, and the butter was already sort of soft. So what I'm gonna do is just strain it. And I'm gonna move this. It's cooled down in LA. Here it's been raining. But since we're under curfew, we don't get to go out at night, which the upside of that is I'm sleeping very well because there's nobody on the street making noise at 2 a.m. talking to their friends very loudly. So I've got a little strainer set up here. And I did order another tripod, so it's on its way. So I've got a little piece of, this isn't cheesecloth, this is called étamine in French. It's untreated, undyed muslin cloth, I guess you call it. I'm gonna strain this. And you wanna strain it because you wanna get those little bits of butter out of it. Whoops. Aha. Voila. So save that butter and save the butter that's in there, and you can use it. You can heat it up and put it on, if you make roast Brussels sprouts or green beans, or even if you make like a crisp topping, something that calls for like melted butter. Somebody's saying, Ben, use the butter for brioche. Ben just built a pizza oven in his backyard. Can you make pizza? Can you make brioche in your pizza oven? And I won't tell you how I know that. But let's just say I know more than people think. All right, so this butter, you can save it. You can make brioche. Anything, you don't want to put it in like cookie dough because it's got liquid in it. It's going to change the recipe. So there we have it. And you could give this a little squeeze. Now this can sit in the fridge for about a week or two. Once again, butter's pretty stable. How about on a steak? Sure. It could be good on a steak. You could mix it with some blue cheese. I always thought that was interesting in France. When I moved here, people would put butter on things like steaks or even on cheese. Like you'd eat spread bread with butter and put Roquefort on it, or charcuterie. I was like, you're putting fat on fat, but they're pretty good at knowing how to eat here. So. So I'm not going to say anything. So this is my brown butter bourbon. And you know what? I'm going to taste it just because it's always a good idea to taste things. Very strong. Very brown buttery. Great. When I used to work as a professional baker in restaurants, we had a big sugar bin. And every once in a while, someone who didn't work in the baking department would fill the sugar bin, like maybe one of the dishwashers or somebody, and they would put salt in it. And you would be baking all your stuff and wondering why the cookies looked a little weird or the cake batter looked weird. And then we would taste something right before service and go, oh my God, the cake is all full of salt. So always, it's a good idea to taste things. And one good thing, when I worked at Chez Panisse, we would stand around and we would taste everything before service anyways, just to see how we liked it. And often I go out to eat, I'm like, didn't anyone taste the salad? It needs, more salt in the dressing, or the nuts should be toasted or something like that. So I will stop complaining. I'll write them a letter. I won't leave an online complaint. No, always speak up. I learned that from Roman. So the old fashioned, I'm going to use my fancy old fashioned glass. I've never used it before. Isn't butter rubbed on cheaper cuts of beef to make it more tender? I don't know. I've never heard that. I know that people put it on chicken, like my friend Adam Roberts. He puts like 2 sticks of butter on a roasted chicken, and that makes it taste better. So do I miss working as a baker? Yes, I miss working as a baker, and I miss my friends who I used to bake with, because we all became best friends, and we had a really good time with each other. But we worked very, very hard. It's very stressful. Okay, so this recipe, the traditional old-fashioned was usually a cube of sugar. Most people can't or don't have cubes of sugar lying around. And I actually like to use what's called cassonade sugar, which in English, please cook for us again. Well, I cooked on the other day. It's very hard to cook on camera because you have to have all the stuff prepared and then have stuff. You have to sit while everything cooks in the oven for an hour like a cake. Very challenging. So, but maybe if I was staying in a fancy hotel and they gave me the staff to do all that stuff, I could. So if anybody works at a fancy hotel in France, let me know, and I'll come and cook for my dinner. Okay, so so this is what's considered, you call it raw sugar, I guess, in the U.S. or in England. And it just looks like this. And it's kind of big crystals, which is not ideal for an old-fashioned, because what you're trying to do is you want the sugar to melt. And then you add 2 shots or 2 dashes of aromatic bitters. This is probably the most well-known. Interestingly enough, the label doesn't fit. And the story goes that the 2 brothers, one of them had designed the bottle and the other one designed the label, and they weren't in touch with each other about what they were doing, and then they realized that the label didn't fit. But somebody else said to them, it's really good, just keep it like that, it's a great marketing thing. And sure enough, it was a hit. So they haven't changed the label. However, I'm gonna use, if I can find it, my friend Ed Anderson, who shot my book, several of my books, including Drinking French, sent me this because he had photographed Brad Parsons' book on bitters. Oh, Demerara. Okay, you can use Demerara sugar. You can use Turbinado, Muscovado. You don't have to get like wacky about it. It's just brown, naturally, natural brown sugar. The nomenclature. This is another aromatic bitter, and you can see how naturally red this is. Very interesting. But I'm going to use this one from the Bitter Truth, which I think is in Germany. Yeah, it's a good BB3. It's a great set if you don't really know, if you don't want to make an investment in 6 or 5 bottles of bitters. This contains orange, Creole, aromatic, decanter bitters, and celery bitters. And different companies make different kits like this too, so they're kind of good to do it. It's a little early there where you are. It's 9 a.m. Okay. Anyway, 2 dashes of this. Whoops. And officially what you want to do is muddle this. And I actually have a muddler. If you don't have a muddler, you can use something else. It might be hard in this glass because it's curved at the bottom. So I'm going to use something very fancy called a spoon and mash it. In general, originally what you would do is saturate the sugar cube with the bitters, and that helps bring out the flavors and so forth. Some bar people add a little bit of seltzer water to this, or club soda, to get it going, and I'm gonna do that, which some people might flip out at. I'm adding about a 1/4 teaspoon of water, but that's just gonna help it melt. And if adding a 1/4 teaspoon of water to a glass is the biggest problem you have, you're very lucky. Anyway, there you go. It's all muddled. I like that noise. Oop. Okay, so the official recipe is generally 2 ounces of bourbon. You can also use rye in this as well. I sometimes use 1.5. It's a pretty strong drink, so I'm gonna use 2 just because I wrote to a friend today. I said, I don't know if there's a glass of wine big enough to get through this week. So this is probably the worst pouring thing ever. I don't recommend it, but when Baccarat makes a when they make a measuring cup, I will buy one. Or I'll start saving my money to buy one. You can buy vintage Baccarat online. I did find a bunch of, I went down the rabbit hole of that for a while. All right, I'm gonna give this a stir. Just to make sure the sugar's melted. And I bought some tangerines today. Once again, I'm going rogue. Usually you use oranges. The oranges didn't look so good. Right now it's tangerine season. The oranges were sort of pale and icky, and the tangerines looked very nice. So, anyway. And what you want to do is spray the juice, or the oil rather, over the drink. And then you can add the twist, and then the ice comes in. Now you can tell when people have websites because they use the words generally about some people rather than doing absolutes. Most people would use an ice cube like this, a giant ice cube. And the whole idea of these giant ice cubes is to not melt so quickly. And I think it might fit in the glass. See, it doesn't. It might fit sideways. It doesn't. Actually, it does fit. But you can use smaller cubes as well. You don't want to use crushed ice or anything. And I don't like those round ice cubes. Some people compare them to the opening of Indiana Jones, where a big boulder's chasing him. And I'm going to pull out my garnish with my tweezers and put it on top so it looks nicer. Because I like my tweezers. People use these also to feed their snakes, I found out. When I was looking for these, I went to the store and they had a picture on one of the packages of somebody putting like flies down, or food down their snake's throat with it. I was like, okay. So this is a brown butter old fashioned, and it is old fashioned week. No cherry. You could use a cherry if you want. I'm not. The only complaint I have is that it's not super duper cold because I didn't chill the bourbon. But I wanted to show you how ooh, that's really good. And it's strong. Let's get some of those hotels on the phone. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. This bourbon has given me the courage to do that. So this is the brown butter old fashioned. Somebody's asking me where to get these. You can buy these. It's a really great store in New York called Cocktail Kingdom, and they sell bar supplies, and they're not super expensive. They have things, I think these are like $10. They have things in different price ranges. They have very high-end stuff as well as regular stuff. So it's a really good store. It's called Cocktail Kingdom. They also make these in different sizes and different like copper or so forth. I like these. The only thing I don't love is that they're not big enough to, like, you see some of those bartenders put ice in the drinks using these, but you have to really open them up. So, and I thought I would enjoy this with a little snack today because the Apéro hour in France is, it's also about eating, having a little something to eat. If you ever go to Italy, they bring you like a whole meal. And they, last time I was in Sicily, we ordered like spritzes, and they brought us this huge platter of food, and we were going out to dinner, and we were like, well, we didn't order that. They go, no, it comes with it. You need something to eat when you're drinking. No. And we're like, okay. And it was like sandwiches and everything. So that was kind of funny. And I love Sicily. So what I thought I would show you is some cheese. French people don't often eat cheese before a meal. It's eaten after the meal. And I'm not sure where that came from, or where Americans started eating it before a meal. But you can have it before a meal. Sometimes in France, people will, or I'll do this, I'll break up like Parmesan in shards. It's a great appetizer. There's little goat cheese things you can buy. You eat them with a toothpick. They've got little herbs on them and so forth. Or you can go to the cheese shop and they sell little buttons of cheese. They call them dried goat cheese. And those are nice little appetizers. Oh, you made the peanuts yesterday, Butler Born 60. Oh, glad you like them. I love those. I just put the recipe on my blog, the salt roasted peanuts. This is a cheese called Rocamadour, and they're sold in these little discs, and they're quite soft and lovely. If you go to the store, like the supermarket, they'll sell them in threes generally because they're so soft, it's not really worth packaging one. But they're very small, and they're very inexpensive. I want to say each one of these, this is probably €3 perhaps. But it's a lait cru cheese. It's raw milk cheese, and they even have the label somewhere. And you can see where it's made. It's down in the Lot region of France, in the Périgord. I'm having a little trouble with French today because I had lunch with a French friend, and the waiter kept trying to talk to us in English because he heard my accent, and I said, well, he's French, and his French is very good, and my French is okay except for the verbs. So, so it was very charming. Some people get mad, like some Americans or people who speak, who are Anglophones who speak French. They get mad when waiters bring them like menus in English. And I always think it's charming because they're just trying to be helpful. But that's just me. Don't write them a letter and say that the waiter was mean to you because he gave you a menu in English. So I'm going to grab a piece of wood. Which is called a cutting board in English. Okay. And I got this lovely, I like reading comments too. My English is not bad, David. Thank you very much. Yours is pretty good. Yours is better than mine. And your French is better too. But I'm working on it. French is very hard. Even French people have trouble with French. People have discussions on TV. You go to parties. Like, I don't think I've ever been to a party in America where people discussed verb tenses. And in France, people discuss that. And I use a word, this is pretty funny if you're a French person or you speak French. I use the word fortitude. And Roman has said to me that word doesn't exist in French. It's not in the dictionary. A friend of ours we were staying with last week, he said, that doesn't exist. There's no such word. He goes, but it's a really good word. He goes, it really is interesting you said that. And then Roman was reading some poetry the other day, and the word fortitude was in it. So I said, see, I'm not imagining all this stuff. I got this wonderful bread from a bakery called Du Pain, which means some bread. It smells really good. It's a really tiny bakery. They don't get a lot of publicity, but their bread is really nice. When she gave me the one with the hole in it, I wanted to say, can I have one without the hole? Because I'm going to make it for toast. But she's really nice. The woman, the sales clerk there is just really lovely. So I always want to be nice to her. But this is from Du Pain. And I'm going to take a slice of it. All right. I'm just going to take a shard of it because I'm cutting in my shoulders up here, so. So you can leave a negative review of this online. Anyway, the Rocamadour, you can see the three of them, and this one's starting to ooze. It's really soft. It's leaving an impression. It's almost liquid inside. They come in these little wood things, which are charming. On a little thing, on a little plastic mat, because that keeps them aerated, so you can loosen them. Unfortunately, they can't use straw anymore because it's against the rules about hygiene. So I'm going to pull one of these off here, which won't work because they're too soft. So you can see how really beautiful this cheese is. It's really soft and melty. People often ask me, they go, how do you know if you can eat the rind? Can I eat the rind? I'm like, if you can get the rind off this cheese, you're a better man or woman than me. But it's a really wonderful cheese. It's not super strong. It's not super pungent. Whoops, I just lost my matchbook that's holding my tripod from getting tilted. I just want to eat cheese my whole life. I want to sit in a bathroom at the Ritz Hotel and eat cheese and drink out of Baccarat glasses. So somebody's asking if they can use Scotch for cocktails. If it's single malt Scotch, that's kind of hard because a lot of single malt Scotch is very that cheese is really good. Really peaty and smoky in a way. I mean, it'll overwhelm cocktails. Scotch is great, neat, it's great on the rocks. If it's blended Scotch, you can make a drink called a Rob Roy, which I made last week. So that recipe is also on my blog. And I should not talk with my mouth full. Okay, so this is the brown butter bourbon old fashioned, and it's Happy Old Fashioned Week. I want to toast Baccarat for making this nice glass that I finally get to use. I want to rub salt in the wound to the food stylist and photographer who did my book, Drinking French. I'm using the glass, so I get the last laugh, George and Ed. And this cheese is really good. This Rocamadour cheese is wonderful. So before I leave you, because my phone is lighting up, I see the Ritz Hotel is calling me, the George Sank, and wow, the Peninsula. Okay, so I got to get to them. But on Friday, I've got a really super special guest, Alison Cave, and she is from Butter and Scotch Bakery and Bar in Brooklyn, which unfortunately had to close because of the pandemic. But it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful bakery. She made Negroni pie. She made hatch chili popcorn. And she's really fun and she's super exciting. And she became a bartender after she was a baker because she needed to work. So she is both an accomplished baker and accomplished bartender. She just moved to France. And she started a cocktail company called Izzy's Paris, which does delivered cocktails. And she's going to be on with me on a one-on-one format. I'm going to be here and she'll be here. And she's going to make a drink, a variation on a martini that's very winter friendly. And she's a lot of fun. She's super cool. And she's one of us, as I like to say in the baking world. She's just one of the cool people. So that'll be Friday with Allison. And I'm going to have a little more cheese with this. I have to say, there's nothing better than good cheese and good bread. Julian, if you're still watching, come for dinner. It's great having lunch with you. We can speak in French tonight, too. Okay, well, merci beaucoup. C'est super gentil. It's really nice of you to join me. I always appreciate it when people watch these and leave comments before and after and write questions and so forth. And I did get an interesting comment the other day from a woman. I do read comments, and she was very down because she had been in confinement for a long time. It's really difficult. a lot of us are really fatigued. I've known, people aren't wearing masks anymore. They're getting mad. I mean, it's not happening a lot, fortunately, here, but I read the news and so forth, and it's just, there's a lot going on. So take care of yourselves. Even if you don't drink alcohol, get out those good glasses and use those tonight. What was funny is I was at a flea market this summer and I bought this one crystal glass and I think it was like €3. My man's like, why are you buying one? I was like, you know what? Because I'm going to drink wine out of it and I'm going to feel really good. And I said, and you're not going to wash it because I don't want it to get broken. And it's not going in the dishwasher. And I love this glass. So it makes me happy. So I will see you on Friday. Thank you again for tuning in. Also, thank you for your kind words about the book. My book, Drinking French, I read them as they scroll by, and it's very nice, so I appreciate it. Okay, I will see you soon. Thanks again for tuning in. Once again, this recipe is on my blog, the brown butter old-fashioned. You do have to find it. It's in the archives. I made it about 2 years ago, but it's easy to find, I hope. Okay, well, cheers to you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.